Travis Wayne Goodsell, if you're an enemy, it is crucial that you not reveal your plot to anyone else, because they'll find out about it. There's a chance that it'll leak to the cops or the feds, and they'll stop you, or they'll make it difficult for you, ruin your plans and your plots, especially if your plot requires some length of time to prepare for. The longer you're planning and preparing, the greater the risk of getting caught and exposed and stopped, and your plans ruined and thwarted. So it's vital that the world, the public, not know of your plot. This month is the Exodus. This month, we are now entering into the millennial time period. We are no longer in the latter days. Notice how I'm the first one to tell you this? Somebody's keeping it a secret from you, not telling you. Normally, in years past, general conferences past, I would do little quick videos about shocking news for conference. And those would assist me in getting lots and lots of views, and then after conference, boom, nobody follows me anymore. What the hell? Supposed to keep watching. You know, I do get a few stragglers that keep following. Some not because of conference. They find me on their own. But for people to think that they know everything, it is not a holiday. Why aren't you at work or in a deportation center? Who's slacking on the job? This is the prophecies, but what we have been told in the church, because I was distracted by somebody trying to fix their car, and they're not allowed to do it in the parking lot, so they put it over here, right by my window. The church has been telling us about the latter days repeatedly. We're Latter-day Saints. Obviously, they're going to talk about it. But in manuals and commentaries, they really don't get detailed. They only quote passages of Scripture and incorrectly demonstrate their illiteracy by making assumptions in Scripture. Like, Jesus is coming to burn us, oh my. And as long as we pay our tithing, we'll be resurrected. It's just so abusive. And so I could do those videos. I've got a whole pile-up list to do for conference just alone. The massive amount beyond previous conferences. and I could do it, and I can get popular. But the problem is that people come to the one video, and then unless YouTube recommends another video, and then another, and then another, and then another, they do not come to my channel for the most part. They do not know who I am. They don't care to know who I am. They don't care to know about my channel. They don't care to know how many videos I've done. What am I talking about? What the hell's going on? But I am resisting. Those are a lower priority this conference. I've got them, but they are low priority. Instead, my priority are these videos: the Exodus, Passover. Whereas previous Passovers, they have not been a priority. We are at a worldwide collapse. And people are not screaming, running down the halls of their work sufficiently enough for what fear needs to be put into the people of the world. And the reason why is because the world will not know of it. The world cannot know of it. It has to be a secret. People have to be caught unaware, unprepared, so that destruction is imminent. That fear kicks in, that causes people to be irrational, that it's too late to prepare, it's too late to run to the store. And we see samples of this when the weather girls across the nation warn of a storm coming that's going to be damaging, and the public waits until the last minute to find out if it's really going to happen. And then all of a sudden the alarms go off. I knew it. Yep. Cyber terrorism has begun yet again. They are incapable of leaving me alone. They do not want you to know what I am talking about. Do I still have it in the files? But the alarms go off. There's panic as people rush to the stores. No, I transferred it. Okay. So I'll have to get them again, put them in this video. And when they get to the stores, they're too late. The supplies are stripped from the shelves. And in often cases, looting and vandalism and theft dominate during that panic time period because nobody was prepared. We also witnessed this in 2020. The church, for my childhood, and I think until I came to, I think even, it lessened as we got into the 2000s. But definitely under Monson, we're not hearing much of anything There was Oaks, who told us we're all going to die and it's inevitable and there's nothing you can do about it. But for the most part, the church was not focused on a year's supply anymore. That was Benson and previous Spencer W. Kimball and way back, because they had the welfare conference meeting and the welfare committee and all that stuff. But it was done away with. And with the doing away of welfare was the doing away of being prepared. Emergency preparedness, having a year's supply for the coming day of disaster. And they tried to generalize it because they didn't want to tell you the day or the hour. The world will not know of it. Mormons will not know of it. The world cannot know of it. The Mormons cannot know of it. We're getting to it. You already know what it is if you've been following me. Mormons should have caught on that these so-called prophets were not prophesying and giving us the day and the hour of the enemy's attack. We're not adequately preparing Mormons. Joseph Smith, with his economy in his Doctrine and Covenants, not the forged documents by Brigham Young claiming to be by Joseph Smith for Brigham's economy, tell us that every single bishop of every single ward is required to have a storehouse treasury. That's why we give the bishop our tithing and other offerings. Until the internet came around and the church came up with a program to submit it online. Putting the deacons out of work to get their $2 from you. But we don't have that. There are over 33,000 wards and only over 1,000 bishop storehouses. The church is not prepared for Armageddon, let alone a natural disaster. The church purposely did not prepare. Instead, they hoard the money. They're just collecting it, increasing it. They violated the interpretation of the Jewish authors of Scripture. And they've fooled Mormons into believing them. They've been giving you all these clues of how they're false all these generations. They've fooled Mormons into believing that as long as they obey the church prophets, Mormons will be just fine. But that's what an enemy does. The scriptures make it very clear that we are required to hearken to the warning voice of the leader of the church, or the leader of the tribe, leader of the kingdom. Surely the Atan of Yahweh will do nothing save he revealeth his secret unto the servants of the prophets. More correctly translated. What's Atan of Yahweh? What the hell? It's Egyptian. Duh. And so, yeah, year's supply was the common thing. And they told us not to really go beyond a year's supply, but to recycle it, not let it just sit there on the shelves and expire, and to get foods that we would eat, not from some of these vintage companies that failed to sell to NASA. I see that Stanford is involved in food services, packaged food. I've not been able to test any of that, but and I'm definitely not wanting to plug him while I'm doing this video, but I'm just aware of it. But I'm remembering the past histories of conferences of the prophets and the leaders of the church talking about it to us. And so, here's the plot. There will be a transfer of government authority from the usurper and impostor Lucifer to the rightful King Jesus Christ. I thought Jesus was a God of love. What is he doing with a coup? See, when I read Joseph Smith talking about the kingdom, he always calls it a city. And in the context of a city in the United States of America, you have to include Article of Faith number 12. We believe in being subject to kings, presidents, rulers, and magistrates, and obeying, honoring, and sustaining the law. But Joseph Smith knew of this evil plot for the second coming of Jesus by a Christian group. That they are using Jesus as their cover story, while secretly the world doesn't know, the Mormons don't know, that they are plotting a mass murder and coup of government in the latter days. Yeah, Joseph Fielding Smith waited to perfection. He didn't even catch on. That's how indoctrinated he was by the enemy with the encoding of it. And that's where the enemy runs into problems, like I said at the beginning, before I was rudely cyber terrorized. Is that when you're plotting to commit a crime, one, you have to have as little amount of people as possible involved with it. Two, you're going to have to kill them all anyway. Numerous movies discuss this. 3, you cannot have a document trail, a money trail, any trail tying to you as the perpetrator of the criminal act. And not with the act, not leading up to the act, not after the act. Nothing. And it's nearly impossible. Nearly impossible. The only way to get away with it is to not obtain anything from it. But in most criminal operations, the person does so because they want something out of it that they don't want to obtain legally. And so, the longer of time that goes by for the plot, the greater the risk. And so, Brigham Young, his operation got shut down under John Taylor. He was constantly having to fight the United States. So, it was Heber J. Grant that started it up again after Joseph Fielding Smith, after saying this, because he was dead. And yet, in the filing of Articles of Incorporation, he still, even though he had to file, there wasn't the Freedom of Information Act yet, so that the world generally would not know of what he'd done, and thus the members of the church didn't know that he filed Articles of Incorporation. The church was dissolved. Mormons didn't know about it. Mormons can't know that the church was shut down by the United States of America. That would be a major blow to their latter-day plans. And so they did, with the welfare program, try to get Mormons to be aware of their plot without revealing their plot. Because you can't kill off the people you hope to enslave for the millennial reign of peace and happiness. You know, unless you're planning on just being all by yourself, sipping Mai Tais in the ruins. And listening to Oaks, that's exactly what he wants. Death to everybody! Bleep you all! Do you need to take your meds? Are you shaking? Hilarious! Hilarious! And so listen to this. As I keep repeating it ever since I found it. Sister Jessica is the hero, and she has no clue. Because again, you have to keep it a secret. You can't let anybody know about it. You've got to plug up any leaks. You've got to keep it to as small a circle as possible. You can't have a document trail. You can't have a financial trail. Nothing must connect to you. You have to have plausible deniability and yet somehow be able to orchestrate it. And something as grand as a worldwide collapse, they're that brazen enough to believe they're going to get away with it. And they just might. because of the attacks of shutting me up. Because it got to me by ignorant Mormons who didn't know any better, who thought they were protecting the church. And so, I found out about this just at the end of last year. As I am just getting so frustrated. What happened? I knew 2020 was the Passover year, because everything happened that the Passover involved. Everything. And I didn't understand what happened. Is this it? Kind of fizzled out. And then I have some people who joined me in 2021 and so on. Frederick from Sweden begins following me, and he's asking questions, and I'm frustrated, and I'm saying we have to wait. We have to wait for the enemy. And so I do other videos of lesser, it's more trying to convince Mormons that the church is lying rather than the big plot. Doing the quick conference videos, getting shut down and attacked by YouTube over the stupidest of lies and false accusations. Because the church knows who I am. And it's a massive shock. See, they know as leaders who they are, but it's still a shock when somebody confronts them with it. Right, Holland? And they didn't want the Mormons to know about it. 2 weeks. And then finally the church news came out. Holland has returned from the hospital. He's doing fine now. Oh my God. But the best, by far, that they never wanted you to know about was my countdown video series to 9/11 2023. 3 weeks until they finally had to confess because it's conference. Oh my God. This is what I don't think people understand. I am being covered up and silenced so that nobody knows what I'm talking about. Whereas other ex-fo never-mos who do videos about the church, yeah, whatever. Church doesn't care. They are not a threat like I am in exposing this church, in exposing what they're plotting right now. But until I found this, I didn't understand what was going on. And you'll hear me, especially in 2023 and into 2024, I quit. I've had enough. If nothing happens by this date, I quit. Because I didn't know about this yet. I'm wanting to live my life. If Armageddon is canceled, somebody needs to let me know. And then I can stop doing videos. I can spend my time watching entertainment. Go back to playing my game. And live a life. But nope. I knew the church was up to something. I knew that they are still lying and covering up. I still see them deceiving Mormons. I see them doing all of these criminal operations and Judas price payments after that time. And so I'm covering it still. But it's pissing me off that the date of scripture prophecy for all of it then came and went on April 8th, 2024. And it's been frustrating for people who've been with me in 2017 to abandon ship at the very beginning. Only one person has lasted prior to 2017 to now. And I joke with him if he's ready for his retirement in Zion. But are they going to go through with it? And so little sister Jessica, yep, she brought hope back to my heart. Because Oaks got leaked. And it frustrates me that this was all the way back on the 14th of March, 2020. If I had known then what I know now, things would have been a lot different in 2020. Oh, dear God. Can you imagine my knowing this with the federal court filings? All hell would have broken loose. Beyond showing the receipt. Beyond Holland's little heart murmur. Oh dear God. And this was just right after I served the church. And so Oaks is speaking to new mission presidents. March 14th, Saturday, 2020, Las Vegas, Nevada. And President Marquis leaks it on the 26th in a letter to mission presidents and parents. Because at the 26th, yeah, things happened here in America. The 14th, no. 26th, yeah. That's why the letter. And so for little sister Jessica to likewise read it and post it on her mission blog on the internet is what enemy criminals dread and fear happening to expose their plot. And so again, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, for the second coming of Jesus, believe that Jesus is coming to burn people. That's why tithing is called fire insurance. We are threatened to pay our tithing or risk getting burned at the second coming of Jesus. Every Mormon should know this. This is not a surprise new doctrine for anybody. And coup the government, which I had never known until I had found the way to perfection, which I found after conference of 2021 in October, which before that October 2021 conference, I found the church's connection to the secret combination through whom they are getting it all done. I found the membership record that got leaked by the Southern Poverty Law Center and posted on the internet for all to know. And despite the press covering it, they're not following up with it. Steve Bannon, Kellyanne Conway, Leonard Leo, and others of the NRA and others of the Heritage Foundation and others that produced Project 2025 were all in that group. Project 2025 is from this secret combination seeking to overthrow the government, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And it goes back to Reagan's first term in 1981. That's when they formed it. They are responsible for tinkle-down economics, so that corporations, like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, can hoard money. But their plan is to coup the government, to establish a monarchy, to do away with the federal government, have states become sovereign nations unto themselves. Thus the church, deceiving even the secret combination group, using them for the will of the church. Everybody knows the church dominates Utah. But nobody is smart enough, apparently, to put the connection together that if you have every state become their own governing entity, that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints would get Utah and Idaho and Nevada and Arizona and possibly Colorado and Wyoming and Montana and Alberta, and keep expanding and keep expanding and keep expanding, while the rest of the nations collapse and fail and fall and descend into war, as the church, having hoarded money, having possessed land, continues to expand around the whole earth to dominate. This is not the end of the world, but merely a test. a trial run for the second coming. Oh, he knows chiasmus. Isn't that cute? Nobody's supposed to know. He was doing this for them to impress them. Mormons love it when they're part of an exclusive meeting. When a prophet comes to your stake conference and it speaks exclusively to you guys. And hopefully it's not because of that one Idaho scandal where there was rebellion against the church. And Ballard and Oaks have to go up to condemn them. But even I, in Canada, there was the area regional conference, and Monson came to speak. And so obviously it was when he was a member of the First Presidency, back in the 90s, mid-90s, somewhere around then. And he told the story that he would repeat in conference, except that he left something out in conference for the rest of you. Gave exclusive information to we in Canada, eh? It was about the baby magpies that were chirping up a storm, and the guy had contacted Monson. What do I do with these birds? They're making all this noise. Monson said, I would have shot them. The whole audience gasped in horror. Living prophet of Jesus murders little animals, which is a big problem in Utah. Mormons murdering little animals growing up to be abominable. Just hilarious when I then heard him give that talk in conference, and he skips it because I'm going, oh, I recognize this. He's going to say it. He didn't. So, yes, it can backfire, but Mormons want exclusive knowledge from the living prophet of Jesus. And so President Markey is no different. He thinks, wow, this is awesome. President Dallin H. Oaks, he's telling us Jesus is coming. He wants to share it with stake presidents and parents. And then Sister Jessica, yay! She shares it. And then 4 years later, a woman who does YouTube videos found it and shared it with another guy who does YouTube videos, who shared it. And then the Mormon employee at YouTube found it and shared it with me to put me in my place. Oops. Oh my God. Hilarious. If you're gonna commit a crime, don't leak it. Oaks is paranoid. I have the clip of him saying, "Don't record us." And it's a clip, but it's been used against me by the YouTube employee to attack me. And so there is no problem of me putting it in a video, but because of the Mormon, I can't. Or the other one of, it's wrong to criticize leaders of the church even when the criticism is correct. Oh my God. They just violate the law to cover up and hide their plot. And so, yes, a big weight was lifted as I now understood why we had to go another 4 years with nothing. All this just working behind the scenes instead. They had seen what they could get away with in 2020 and 2021 because it was a test run. That's why Trump finally put out the call, yeah, okay, we're done. The test is over. Thank you for your service. This is why he refused to concede. And then he diverted attention from the church to cover up the test run by stealing documents. Selling them to our enemies. Using them as toilet paper. Which were unable to be flushed. And he definitely couldn't eat them anymore. Too much to eat. Oh, dear God. And so, yes, that's why the video content of mine has changed. That's why I'm not as concerned about being popular. This is the meat. And if you're still licking up the meat milk, you're the one the church is preying upon. This is it, according to Oaks. So if it does not happen, it's not my fault. I did my part. I was prepared. I was preparing you. I was warning you. I did everything I was asked and prophesied to do. Even beyond. With some fun stuff along the way. And yeah, I got punished for it, as you can tell, if you've been watching long enough. Finding out about their plot from the way to perfection, oh dear God, I am lucky to be alive. It is a miracle I am alive. The church was furious. And they were even plotting to murder me. I found their plot to murder me. Because of their just fury from just suing them. They were plotting to murder me. And then I find the way to perfection, and oh my God, our heads started spinning around, levitating on the bed, foaming at the mouth. Oh my goodness, and babbling in unknown tongues. Dear God. All of this for scripture prophecy fulfillment. Everything in scriptures is about this moment. Right now. Because it was supposed to be 2020. But Oaks said, no, we're moving it to 2024 and 2025. Now, granted, they could have kept going and done it. In 2021, and yeah, it would have all been fulfilled, and I would have known and been the only one who have notified you guys and warned you guys, those who were around at that time. But dear God, I am just, it is a miracle I am still alive. And I told you last year that the church is plotting to still murder me, that they've gone to another tactic now. And here it is. Little Sister Jessica. You see, because Oaks continues, or is quoted continued, where he talks about, if you've been following the counsel from the prophet, he doesn't call him by name, about ministering. I did the videos about ministering. He did away with home teaching and changed it to ministering. Now, granted, as an elder all these decades, I know very well that home teaching kind of sucks. But in times of emergency, the elders will step up and do their job. But Nelson, in advance of 2020's test run, canceled it and replaced it with ministering, which means if you feel like it, the bishop will assign somebody to check on them. What are you complaining about? What's wrong? And that's it. There were my West Valley stake that, despite the change, continued to do their thing, and it seems like our stake was used as a test run for the upcoming change in ministry program, because the stake president started an extra ministering type program with his whole high council and leaders of the various wards to take 1 month and specifically target individuals to be paired up with the leaders to go visit those people. And they continued that after the change. But nonetheless, Nelson did away with the communications network for an emergency situation. That's what the home teaching thing was perfectly designed for. And Nelson stopped it. Emergency preparedness. No, Nelson was never talking about emergency preparedness. That was the old welfare program when I was a kid. And food supply, I don't see food supply in here. Notice, we were always told a year's supply of food. Under Benson, as it started to dissipate, he lowered it to, a couple months, and then, okay, fine, a backpack for a week. And then gone. But a year's supply? 2020. I showed you the picture yesterday. Johns Hopkins University was keeping a tally from all who would report to them from around the world. And they finally stopped it when it's no longer a pandemic in 2023. 3 years supply of food. And remember, the church is not prepared for an emergency. They don't have the storehouses for an emergency. The church was unprepared. And here Oaks has the audacity to lie and sneak this in, that Nelson was talking about emergency preparedness. The year's supply was insufficient from the test run that lasted over 3 years. It's still going on. People are still dying from it. I check the Utah website for this every single week. Utahns are still dying. Utahns are still getting infected. I did my live undercover news reporting from Gail Miller's concentration camps of hell of human trafficking of those who were dying. Not just from the fentanyl overdoses. And then at home church. He's abandoning Mormons. He's passing the buck off again, this time to parents. Previously, they didn't want people asking them questions about scripture and doctrine and theology and administration and church history, and told you to go to your stake president for disciplinary action. Don't you ask us any questions. Bleep you. Leave us alone. We're busy plotting to destroy and murder you. And so yes, taking away an hour of church, changing family home evening to Sundays now instead of Mondays, which Utah and Mormons just said, yeah, whatever. We're keeping Mondays. Tonight is family home evening because Mormons are wicked. Nelson specifically is planning to abandon Mormons. And I've gone over that with you. Harold B. Lee in his amended Articles of Incorporation upon the dissolution and winding down of this corporation, which there is no church, still dissolved. The saints cannot know about it. And so, yeah, they're planning to cut and run, to transfer all the money when everything hits the fan, which Oak says is this month, April, tomorrow, this month for the Jewish month. They're taking the money and running. but only those in the inner circle who know about it. And I'm pretty sure the lower 6 apostles don't know about it. Only the upper 6. That little small group who are too old to care. Who don't fear the reaper, even though it's in a coming day. Dear God. And so I don't understand why Oakes is so drooling to become the leader of the church. He's too old. But when they tell us in conference that, oh no, it's not about authority over people. Yeah, it is. You purposely made it as a reward for the last oldest person standing as the president of the 12. And so thus, Howard W. Hunter is only there for 9 months. Nelson, he's on his deathbed. He's unable to function. This is not how you run an organization. You got to get young enough men who are competent in the field to run the church. And the church just refuses. And so, this month is the Exodus. All scriptures talk about it. All Jewish authors write about it in a different form and fashion. It is not literal history. None of it is chronological in order. But everybody makes that mistake because of Constantine's creation of Christianity, turning the Jewish scriptures into literal history and thus a chronological order, and thus Christians with the Latin Vulgate and the Septuagint created the Old and New Testaments called the Bible, rejecting what didn't conform and comply to turning things literal history. And so many apocalyptic literature has been rejected. They are still valid and legitimate because they are prophecies. They reveal days and hours of when these events of the latter days were to happen. And they happened because it's over. This is the winding down. It was supposed to be over already. I was supposed to already be in Zion, well underway in building Zion. And yet, here we are, because that was just a test run. And so, when you see this as the thumbnail picture, which I should be using the windows so I can change the... It's all scripture stuff anyway, so I can just make it all red. Let's do that. Where did I put you? I think you got transferred. We need you up still. Did anybody notice that I changed the first page of the Nissan month calendar? Did you see the changes? I'm trying to get it caught up among all the stuff I'm doing. And there's the bubble chart of the church's threats, and they didn't even want to. I would gone from the picture. They had gotten rid of me. Death to Travis! So, yeah, let's change it all to red. There we go. Alrighty. be confusing. You'll have to actually sit and read it. Probably should do the side stuff too, just make it all red and pink. There we go. Alrighty, so that one's now complete. So even though Jews and Wikipedia and Christians all give you dates, no, none of it is legitimate. This did not happen in history. You got all these scholars who think they got it all figured out. They know which Pharaoh it was. They know who Moses was. They know who Joseph was. They know Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They know exactly who they are. They know how the Red Sea, not the Reed Sea, parted. From the volcanic eruption. No, none of that is true. Nobody is using science for their claims that they call theories. All of them are false theories. All of them need to be dismissed. They're all wrong. None of this happened. The scriptures themselves tell you it did not happen, that they are prophecies of the coming of their Jewish Christ in the latter days. But people want to see what they want to see and create how it all happened. And so, the Jews, by designating days when they wrote this, are prophesying with the days and the hours of when they are to occur. And here we go. They knew Oaks would make 2020 a test run for the Exodus. And then 2025 would be it. Crap! Where were you, Sister Jessica? Where were you? So the Exodus starts off with, they got this wrong. It's not initial plagues. And I should make the correction rather than putting in what I was told to put in by people who were not knowledgeable on the subject matter. I did for Reed Sea. But authority challenge, I guess we'll call it. Authority challenge. Save it, even though it's in the wrong file. Anyway. And so this comes from Exodus chapter 7, verses 1 through 9 and 12. This is where Moses is playing with the big boys now. Prince of Egypt. The song. And so the sea turning red and the snakes with the rods, snakes, all of that is about Moses demonstrating he has authority. Pharaoh doesn't. Pharaoh is the false Christ, the false prophet. Moses is the true Christ, the true prophet. And so after that, then you get into the actual plagues that they claim was in March. Not necessarily. Not literal history, not chronology. But Exodus 9, 13 to 35. Then you have the calendar date for the first of Nisan being the Lunar New Year, 5786. Wrong. But nonetheless, it's encoded. And it's a little number game, which I find fascinating, of those who created the number game code. Because it had, for the previous year, before the final year of the latter days, is 5785. 2 5s on the end, with 7 and 8 in the middle. Now, if any of you have been following my dream visions, they all involve the number 15 and addition of 7 and 8 to get 15. And so seeing this with the latter days, because at the beginning it was 87, or what was it in which file are you in? Not this one. Let's see, 2017? What month was that? What year was that? Yeah, 2017, the beginning. 5, 7, 7, 7, and 5, 7, 7, 8. Cool. And so if we go back to 2014, we get the new year, 5, 7, 7, 5. 11 years. Five, 7, 7, 5 ends 5, 7, 8, 5. This is not literal history. There's a more contemporary man who designated the dates, thanks to Constantine, who did this. There's Jewish Kabbalah afoot. Just like for 3/14 for Purim with the lunar eclipse. That was a Knights Templar Freemason who knew about that and put it in. And it was fulfilled. And I did the videos. And so the first day of creation, that has to do with the creation video I've got for you to do. On the 10th of Nisan, which is the 8th of April, we have the Exodus 12:3, where the Israelites, in advance of the Exodus, have a Sabbath, Gal Gadol, the great Gal, Wonder Woman, the great Sabbath before the Exodus. And the 14th, right before Passover. Well, the starting of Passover, the evening meal, with the 10th plague of creeping death of the firstborn. Yeah, we now know what that was. This is the Last Supper. This is the whole symbolism for the Last Supper. The Great Sabbath and the evening Passover meal 4 days later. This is what that is all about. The coming of the Christ for the Exodus. That Mormons gather and partake of the blood and body of the murdered Joseph Smith as couples for the future birth of the Mormon who would be the man like Moses to save Mormons from the great and abominable church. That's what the sacrament Last Supper is all about. Church lies to you about what it means. It comes all the way from the Egyptians. They knew all this too. Long before 3761 BCE. Pyramid texts indicated as such. And so, thus that evening, with the 15th, is the beginning of the Exodus. And it's not until the final day when they actually leave. And so there's an interesting scripture in chapter 11 of Exodus, in which they acquire the wealth of Egypt. And even Pharaoh hands over the wealth to Moses as they leave for the Exodus to go build Zion. And this is where I'm wondering how the hell it's going to happen. Church ain't giving it up, but neither did Pharaoh. Trump ain't giving it up. You know, there were rumors that we would get $5,000. That failed. And then Musk, at the end of last week, teased that people with Social Security might get a raise. That didn't happen, and not likely to happen either. Because tariffs are coming in a coming day to further destroy the economy and provide the church with more money to capitalize on by selling their stock with insider trading in connection with Trump. And so this is where I'm very curious. And the Book of Mormon likewise talks about it. The whole Stanford question that led to Laban, Nephi, getting the plates of brass from the wood box, the message of God. They're in the treasury storehouse of the temple in the women's gate. And so, yeah, Zion just can't be built on faith and prayers. You gotta produce the results. And this is a simple doctrine, and all Mormons have been deceived on that. Didn't I? Oh, this one. Let's get rid of this picture then, if I don't need it. And so this is what we're looking to have happen, and I don't see how it's going to happen. I mean, it's set up to happen. Both Trump and the church, through their articles of incorporation, have set it up to have it all transferred so that we can go to Zion in an Exodus. But the church isn't willing. They don't want to do it. They want to give it to somebody else who's more worthy. But anyway, then you have the parting of the Red Sea, which is not the Red Sea, it's the Reed Sea, on purpose, because it's prophecy and revelation. They're teaching you. It's the same thing with everybody else who parts the sea, even the creation story. The water is divided, dry land appears. Woman's water breaks, dry baby appears. Still kind of moist and icky. Same concept. Birth, that's what it's all about. Moses, the coming of Moses. And I didn't expect me to be able to part literally the waters in 2020. But I did. Because I get inspired. I am the head of the church, the rightful head of the church. I have been challenging Nelson's authority this whole time. He has no authority. And it's demonstrable every time he speaks. That's why my conference videos, for the most part, focus on him. I have the whole playlist of everything Nelson has come out and said. I've been using his clips. I don't have to alter a single word he says, because his words are sufficient for Mormons to know they're a fraud. And yet, I still get Mormons who never watched the original talk, who challenge me and say, "Fake! You altered his words!" No, that's what he said. Now, for Benson, you'll notice when he says, "I have faith that the Constitution will not be saved in Washington." I did take some stuff out, but that is what he said. I took out where he said that Joseph Smith's right about the Constitution being saved, but it will not be saved in Washington, which means Joseph Smith is wrong. And so don't push me. If I use the original quote, I'll still shut you up. But right now, it's not important to use the clip where he says Joseph is wrong, but that the government will not be saved. The Constitution will fall. That's what's important right now. And Mormons just don't get it. They attack hoping somehow the church will be proven true. You can't do it. You're using Christian interpretation. You already lost before you began. They never get it. And they purposely are not wanting to be worthy to go to Zion. And all you have to do is love one and only one commandment. And Mormons can't do it. And so, yes, as the Book of Mormon teaches, people who are that hard-hearted and wicked must be faith bubble destroyed, like the poor Zoramites, so that they have to start from scratch as to how to learn science, to learn truth. And thank God Alma and Amulek were there and not that Korah whore who just previously got run over by horses. Can you imagine what would have literal history happened This is what the church wants. Mormons are not obeying. And so the church, as part of this, if they're able to succeed and get their kingdom back, they must break Mormons to do so. And the survivors will be broken. They won't know what happened. Where was Jesus during all this? Oh, thank God, Oaks is still alive. Tell us what to do, Oaks. You're not dead yet, huh? And so I put in just generally May, June, July because of Exodus 16 through 19, Exodus 19 to 31, Exodus 32, 1 to 34 and 29. Or Exodus 32, 1 to 34, 29. That's all the wilderness stuff. This technically is a completely different story about the Exodus, as there's another villain of the story. And then September, which I found fascinating, because tabernacles. This is why tabernacles and Passover are the way they are, is because of the 7 months to construct the tabernacle. And so the Feast of Tabernacles is part of the Exodus. But if we end up having to go to tabernacles this year, I quit. Seriously, I don't know how I'm going to get through this month, let alone last till tabernacles. If something doesn't finally happen from Oaks. Dear God. And so then back to the 1st of Nisan, you have the tabernacle inauguration. The tabernacle is constructed, Exodus chapter 40. The date is not correct, but it's in here because. And as I told you in last night's video, Wikipedia versus the calendar site, it has a difference of 10 years. So I am I use, well, understand that. So if you're fact checking me on Wikipedia and you see that it's the website calendar, then you'd understand, oh, okay, so this Travis used the website calendar, not the Wikipedia, or vice versa, if you're fact checking me. Alrighty, so this is the Passover. This is the Exodus. Oaks said, this is it. Oaks has come out and said, I'm going to murder all of you bleeping bleepers. Only the righteous are going to be resurrected. But we don't have the keys of resurrection. So nobody's going to get resurrected. But yeah, 3rd Nephi chapter 7, or 3rd Nephi chapter 1 is where it's supposed to be 2017. If the birth date doesn't happen on the 23rd of September 2017, we're going to murder all the believers. Well, it happened. They still tried to murder me. But that's what Oakes has done. He has designated a day. He set apart a day, Easter, on the 20th, the day after Passover. Now that could mean that that's the day where we'll be resurrected, but it seems that that's a deadline for the final attempt to burn us with Jesus' second coming. Notice how the church no longer talks about April 6th as his birthday. If they have conference, pay attention to that on Sunday. For those who are still listening, pay attention. And so yes, pay attention to Trump Ice 2025. I do these for a reason, because of what's coming. We're waiting for a trigger event that the American people have had enough and they can't stand it no more, and there is a civil war outbreak. If that happens, I have no clue how I'm going to get you guys to Zion, how we're going to get money transferred, and I have no clue. The tariffs are making it difficult. We'd have to use a web or a company from the United States. Getting people to Zion from outside of the United States can still happen because of Trump with the gold card. But when you have civil war that nullifies Trump from the equation, it's going to be a big old mess. Because I don't know. Again, Judge Shelby refused to rule on tithing. Another week, another month gone by. He is not wanting to make this ruling. He is hoping something will come up to prevent him from having to rule on this, which is bad news for the church. But yeah, dear God, you know, I have seen how everything happened, but I have no idea how it will happen. This final four is just and I wish I could know, but like they say, nobody can know. Nobody must know. It has to be a surprise. It has to be a shock, so that people are caught unaware and unprepared, like an earthquake. 7.7 in Miramar. So, alrighty. I really need a vacation. Doing the video series is worse than doing conference videos. Which I still am struggling. How am I going to do conference this time? Like the Valentine's Day massacre last year just disabled me.